Good day, everybody. I'm Gaël Blondel, the conference chair of EclipseCon, and I'll take just 2 minutes for a few remarks and to introduce our keynote speaker. I will not try to be original when I say that this year is special. So we took the decision to go fully virtual with EclipseCon, but we also took two other important decisions. The first decision was that we wanted to keep the main features of EclipseCon, and that's why we have this community day, because every year we realize that the community day is the place to meet the builders of our Eclipse ecosystem. And the second important decision was that the event would be free. And we are happy because that was a great decision. And thanks to that, we have more than 2,400 registrations. Great. So now let me introduce our keynote speaker. Benjamin Jean is the CEO of InnoCube, an open innovation consulting firm that works with many administration and governments and industry players to help them execute their digital transformation with a focus on topics like intellectual property management and ecosystem strategies. Beyond this main role, Benjamin impresses me with all the activities he has had in the free and open source ecosystem, including writing books like Option Libre, the good usage of free licenses, being part of several task forces and initiatives about open source and open data governance and licensing, teaching intellectual property in several masters and at the renowned French political science school Sciences Po Paris, co-founding several nonprofits like Open Law, a French nonprofit organization promoting activities to enhance the transformation of the legal sector through open approaches, and organizing events dedicated to open source like EOL, the annual European Open Source and Free Software Law event, and the Paris Open Source Summit that he presided in 2016. Benjamin and I have met several years ago in such events, and our routes cross all the time since then when I need some help on legal topics or when he sends us organizations that want to build an open source ecosystem, like he did some time ago with the Calypso Network Association, and now they have successfully created their Eclipse Keeper project, for example. That said, Benjamin, that's a real pleasure to welcome you for this very first keynote of the week to introduce the Community Day with something that is at the core of our mission: help innovation ecosystems build open source commons for more efficient and sustainable industries. So, dear attendees, please use the question tab in the chat to ask your questions. I'll ask them to Benjamin at the end of his talk. And thanks again, Benjamin. The virtual stage is yours.
So, to restart, I'm very happy to be here. And the topic I'm going to speak about is how to use open source, open data, or open models in order to build some commons and for more efficient and sustainable industries. We try to be fast because we have some minutes less. Just a few assumptions to start. First one is today, innovation dynamics is totally different than if we want to compare with previously ones. Today, technology are more and more complex. Each technology evolves more and more faster. So developing alone exposes you to be outdated as soon as you release your own technology. And the opposite, if you are trying to do same things with other people, it will be more fast, it will be better, cheaper, and it might be a really good way of doing innovation. Just for doing it, you only need to focus on what is your real and sustainable business. So you need to define precisely what is common, what can you share, and where can you contribute with other people to build new technology, and what is, I would say, your own value on this whole ecosystem, and focus your business on it. Another point we are seeing today regarding, I would say, intellectual property rights, for instance, is that when you want to protect it very strongly, it becomes very quickly expensive and time consuming. So when in your in your industry or in your field, you need to be fast, you need to have cheap, I would say, technology, to be cheaper by building new technology. Thinking about doing together is a good way to. Another point which is interesting and important for me is legitimacy. Everybody working in open source knows that transparency is a key factor of trust. If you want people to trust, to join you, you need to be transparent about what you are doing, why you are doing it. And so it's a big part of every project. And what we can see in documentation, everything is documented regarding the project itself, from the technical part to the governance, for instance. So legitimacy comes from cooperation. In the same way, I mean, when you want people to use technology, there is no better way to do it than by allowing them to contribute to it, to define what this technology must be. And when they are contributing to it, they will enjoy to using it after that. So it's a very good choice when you are building, when you are investing in new technology to suggest to every, I would say, stakeholders, every entities which might be interested in using it after that, to join what you are doing in order to have their feedbacks, but also to be more confident on their future use of this technology. So the third assumption I wanted to share, just to start in this quick introduction, is the need of joining public and private efforts. In France, in Europe, and lots of part of our world, we are public states are thinking about what we call digital society in Europe. Digital society is a way for a government to say, okay, we are producing a lot of digital resources, and we will share it with a lot of people in order to help them to produce new value based on it. And what is interesting in this way of thinking the role of, I would say, public entities, is that by doing it, by sharing such resources, they will have a real strong impact on the field where this resource will be used. And what I am quite confident in is that by joining private funding, private initiatives, and public initiatives, we can have an innovation which will be stronger, and I would say more ethical, just to try to converge both interests of having very strong and sustainable innovation and having very ethical innovation. And we can do it by just by using and by thinking about how to do things together from public and private sector in the same way. So building shared commons is a really efficient way to involve all of them, every players, on a local but also on a broader and global level. So once I share those first assumptions, what do we define as an innovation ecosystem? I think there is three parts, or those ecosystems might be defined in three parts. An innovation ecosystem is, first of all, a community. So I would say maybe the most important part of it is the community. And the broader, the larger is the community, the stronger will be the ecosystem and the resources which are built in it. So this community will gather a lot of stakeholders from all of, I would say, both public and private entities, and at the same time, people, companies, but also individual or non-profits entities. You will see users, consumers, clients, citizens, lots of different persons which are not used to work together, but when you are thinking as an innovation ecosystem, and we see this kind of dynamics in open source, they try and they are tools in order to allow them to work together. And in same way, when we think about a very broad community, we need to gather partners from one side, and so it's, I would say, really easy to ask partners to work together. We have suppliers and clients. It's a bit more complex, but yes, there is some interest too, so it's quite easy. But also competitors, and thinking about how competitors can gain from and contribute to a community is a good way of thinking about commons and having a very strong innovative ecosystems. All of these stakeholders will contribute to shared resources, open and shared resources. These resources might be, I would say, very classical, like software, database, hardware, lots of open hardware now in lots of projects, but sometimes some specification, referential standards, all of them are useful for the whole community. And what is important is to find the right resources people want to work on. And because they've done some concrete projects and they build some concrete resources, they will be more confident to work on new ones. And they are doing it because this ecosystem is using or is based, is strengthened by very, I would say, concrete or just strong rules. And these rules are what are regarding the governance and regarding the technical part of the project. And these rules are charters, open source licenses, or open data license, all these tools we are using daily, but also any other, I would say, any other legal or technical tools which might use help and foster the collaboration within the ecosystem itself. So there's three parts of what I call an innovation ecosystem: the community, the resource, and the rules the community built in order to create this ecosystem, are what we call innovation ecosystems, and that's also what we call what we can call a commons. So they are this community is building and maintaining some commons because of this three parts of the presentation. So why, if you want to explain to other people why there is a need to go through this open innovation or innovation ecosystems. First part, for every people which is already part of your ecosystem, which are working in your field, I would say, so what is really easy to understand is the interest regarding the values, the competitivity, the attractivity of the ecosystem. If people within one ecosystem are using to work together to share information and to build common resources together, it will be really easy, or it will be more easier to build new projects and to be more competitive. The second one I already expressed was developing public-private relationships. You know, it's Gail just a few minutes ago talked about some projects I was involved in, and so when you're gathering different entities, public and private ones, individual and companies, in order to help them to work together, the first benefits they encounter is they are discussing, they are trying to find a common way to answer to common question, issues, and the opportunities regarding public and private partnerships is really something important, and from my opinion and what I experienced is very useful for the whole ecosystem. And the last one is accelerating innovation, of course. when you're I would say, an industry, an economical actor, player, first of all, thinking about joining and yes, disseminating such idea of the innovation ecosystem. First idea is by thinking together, by joining all stakeholders from the same value chain in order to define what should be done and before what other resources. And it's a good way to find the right place each stakeholders can have in this global ecosystemic dynamics. So it will be easier to and risk less to contribute and to innovate in such ecosystem. On the same time, when you know what people want to do, and if it is, I would say, similar to what you like to do too, it's a good way to mutualize, to fund together the development, the maintenance of the resource you need for your own business, or because you are just using it inside your own organization. And last point is, it is a good way to support new technologies implementation. I'd like to say, when you're producing, when you are in innovation, sometimes what you are innovating is not useful for other people. So just it can be very good, but it's not as famous as other technology, which might work where your technology is not working. So working in this ecosystem dynamics is a good way to support the implementation and the dissemination of your technology. And at last, it's for your organization, your entity itself, it's a very good way to adapt, to transform itself, to gain from what we say digital transformation, but to gain from these best practices you can see when you're looking at open source project or innovation ecosystems. The way they're working might be really interesting to reproduce and might be benefits to your own organizations. It improves your skills, and it's a good way to increase your productivity, but also to attract consumers, but also employees and talented employees for organizations which are doing innovations really important. So what is difficult when you are doing it is to find the right way to go to go through it, to change your own organization. But what is really difficult too is to change the relationships you can have with other stakeholders. So it's not the change of one people; it's the change of lots of people in the same time. So that's what can become. That's exactly at the same. This time it becomes more complex, but it is really important to think about the change. The change every players need to do in its own organizations in order to reinvent what every value everybody can contribute to the ecosystem. So there is, from my opinion, 4 main steps when you are just defining, just looking for innovation ecosystems and wanting to contribute to. First one, you can be at the initiative rate, or you can just join such dynamics. First one is to defining strategy. The second one is to formalizing the way people will collaborate within this community. The third one is to supporting it. Even if people understood why they need to go this way, it might be really difficult for them to do it. So there is a huge need to supporting them. And the last point is about dissemination. It's important to be sure of the success of the initiative within the community itself, because what you are producing is produced for the community at first, but you need to think about outside the community in order to increase the impact and to join new ecosystem too. I will just precise all of these points after that. But just to come to what I expressed, just to be more precise about it, I think there is two kinds of ecosystems. Maybe the terms are not the right ones, but there is business ecosystems and there is technology ecosystems. I would say technology ecosystems are the historical ones. Open source started by just joining for several entities, public and private at the beginning, in order to produce, I would say, strong and reliable and sustainable technology for instance, internet, or I think Linux or Eclipse are two good other examples of such such needs of joining lots of players in order to have more strong innovation. Today, we have lots of ecosystems which are trying to do the same. We're getting new technology, I'd say, like AI, blockchain, cloud computing, Docker containers, containerization, etc. On the other hand, and it's not we don't need to oppose it both ecosystems, but on the other hand, we have what I call business ecosystems. In those ecosystems, people are gathering, joining their strengths in order to, for what expressed, to be more efficient, to be stronger together than they can be alone. And we have a lot of, I think we have an increasingly number of projects or ecosystems in these business ecosystems, I would say, perspective. Some examples I have in France or in Europe are about business ecosystems within mobility sector, or space, or legal sector, or supply chain, bank, energy. There is a lot of examples of such dynamics within a very vertical ecosystem and business ecosystems. And what is important and what is interesting is that both of them are strengthening each other. So when you think about business ecosystems, it's really good for every actors to join them first, and it's a way for them to be to have more, I would say, riskless innovation. It's a good way of adoption of the technology. It's a good way to be part of something broader, and all of what can be produced within these ecosystems might be really useful for all the stakeholders. But it's really hard for them to produce concrete resources. That's was a part of it, because because they are competitors, because they are very different, even if they need to do things together, sometimes it's very difficult for them to find what can be done collectively. So, and sometimes we can't find things, and if we do not find the right resource to start with, it's difficult to build a real ecosystem about this idea of building lots of open and shared resources. On the other hand, technology ecosystems are building very concrete resources from the beginning, and everything they are producing is concrete, but it's sometimes difficult for them to compete with other technology ecosystems, with other technology just led by one organization. So they don't have the same adoption power than business ecosystems may have. That it was just a few words about it. Today, what is important, and when we are in the Eclipse conference today, so traditional open source foundation like Eclipse today offer, I would say, such frameworks needed for innovation for both business and technology ecosystems. It's a good, they are joining both way of thinking ecosystems innovation. So the only point I'm just expressing is sometimes difficult because there are some overlapping with other initiatives, because when you are thinking about how a foundation can help you to sustain your own ecosystems, you need to find a way to collaborate with other ecosystems outside the foundation or beyond. So you have there is a very good way of doing ecosystems and innovation ecosystems through traditional open source foundation, but there is some work which might be done in order to have more strong innovation in this field. So I say, yes, I have 1 minute, 2 more minutes. I'm at the end of my talk. So what I already defined was the need of a strategy. So you need to consider who are the stakeholders and the technology which already exist in your business. And you need to define a shared vision, which is common to the whole ecosystem. The second one is how to build rules, rules for collaboration, but also rules for the governance. So who will decide what where the community need to go, how the resources would work. So that's a strong point, and we have a lot of tools now which are given to everybody. And for instance, in Charter, in some foundation, in order to help them to build every tool they need. We have the need to supporting the implementation of what was defined here. So providing concrete tools for the collaboration, strengthen intellectual property rights management, because it's very hard sometimes to combine classic, traditional and new, I would say, new practices about intellectual property rights management, and fostering the understanding and compliance with this collaborative framework. And the last point was how to increase impact. So that was the point I wanted to just to share with you, is how to interconnect with other ecosystems, how to structure and secure the scaling up process. I think there is a lot of people who are thinking about doing such innovation ecosystems dynamics, but today it's very hard to find one, just how to say it, but it's also a geopolitical issue. So we have lots of interesting ecosystem in US, in Europe now, and thanks to Eclipse, we have a strong foundation in Europe we can rely on, and in China, in ASEAN too. So we need to find a way to secure, I think by collaboration, how each of these dynamics are providing innovation. And to conclude, just 2 quotes. First one, or just summarize. First one is, openness is a means, not an end by itself. So what we need to find, this common vision we need to share, will be, I would say, tooled by openness, by open source, by open data, but that's not the contrary. And the last one, which is picked up by in a non-for-profit organization I'm part of, and is that the path is clear, but the road is long. And I think that all of us, we are quite confident about why and how open source or open models or innovative ecosystems might work, and why we need to go to this way, but it's quite long, and we need, as this talk or every project we are working on, we need to continue step by step to build this road. So that's all for me.
Thanks, Benjamin. So, well, with the technical glitch at the beginning, we have no time for questions. So I hope that we can continue this conversation on Twitter or any other virtual mean. And I invite all of you to join the following sessions. We have several parallel sessions starting now. So see you soon. And thanks again, Benjamin.
Right, thanks.